Girls on their way to school glance left, right, left. Reach for their phones. Keep heads down as the men in their vans go oi, oi, oi all day long. Strangers on the street go croak, croak, croak. Show us your hair. Give us a smile. And the boys on their phones go snap, snap, snap all day long. The mums and the dads worry, don't wear that, don't go out, don't be late. And everybody shrugs, it's part of growing up.
All day long.
The Republic Act No. 1131-3. The Congress has enacted Republic Act No. 1131-3 to be known as the Safe Spaces Act or the Bawal Bastos Act to address existing gaps and issues on equality, security, and safety of both women and men in private and public spaces. The Safe Spaces Act is intended to expand the scope of the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995 or Republic Act No. 7877. Public spaces. Under the law, public spaces include streets and alleys, public parks, schools, buildings, malls, bars, restaurants, transportation terminals, public markets, spaces used as evacuation centers, government offices, public utility vehicles or PUVs, as well as private vehicles covered by app-based transport network services and other recreational spaces such as but not limited to cinema halls, theaters, and spas. Catcalling and stalking. The Safe Spaces Act also defines catcalling and stalking. Catcalling refers to unwanted remarks directed at a person, commonly done in the form of wolf whistling and misogynistic, transphobic, homophobic, and sexist slur. On the other hand, stalking pertains to conduct directed at a person involving the repeated visual or physical proximity, non-consensual communication, or a combination thereof that cause or will likely cause a person to fear for one's own safety or the safety of others, or to suffer emotional distress. Violations of the Safe Spaces Act. In general, a violation of the Safe Spaces Act can be committed in streets and public spaces, restaurants and cafes, bars and clubs, resorts and water parks, hotel and casinos, cinemas, malls, buildings, and other private-owned places open to the public, PUVs, street and public spaces committed by minors, online, in the workplace, and educational and training institutions. Specific acts. Section 11 provides for a list of specific acts and their corresponding penalties to it: cursing, wolf whistling, catcalling, leering, and intrusive gazing, taunting, cursing unwanted invitation, misogynistic, transphobic, homophobic, and sexist slurs, persistent unwanted comments on one's appearance, relentless requests for one's personal details such as name, contact, and social media details or destination, the use of words, gestures, or actions that ridicule on the basis of sex, gender, and sexual orientation, identity, and or expression, including sexist, homophobic, and transphobic statements and slurs, the persistent telling of sexual jokes, use of sexual names, comments and demands, and any statement that has made an invasion on a person's personal space or threatens the person's sense of personal safety, First offense, fine of 1,000 pesos and community service of 12 hours inclusive of attendance to a gender sensitivity seminar to be conducted by the PNP in accordance with the LGU and PCW. Second offense, arresto minor, 6 to 10 days or a fine of 3,000 pesos. Third offense, arresto minor, 11 to 30 days, and a fine of 10,000 pesos. Making offensive body gestures at someone and exposing private parts for a sexual gratification of the perpetrator with the effect of demeaning, harassing, threatening, or intimidating the offended party, including flashing of private parts, public masturbation, grouping, and similar lewd action. First offense, fine of 10,000 pesos and community service of 12 hours inclusive of attendance to a gender sensitivity seminar to be conducted by the PNP in accordance with the LGU and PCW. Second offense, arresto minor, 10 to 30 days or a fine of 15,000 pesos. Third offense, arresto minor, 1 day to 6 months and a fine of 20,000 pesos.
Apart from this, the Safe Spaces Act also recognizes gender-based online sexual harassment. It is defined as any online conduct targeted at a particular person that causes or is likely to cause another mental, emotional, or psychological distress and fear of personal safety. The Sexual Harassment Act include unwanted sexual remarks and comments, tweets, uploading or sharing or one photos without consent. Others example of gender-based online sexual harassment includes acts that use information and communication technology in terrorizing and intimidating victims through physical, psychological, and emotional threats. Unwanted sexual, misogynistic, transphobic, homophobic, and sexist remarks and comments online, whether publicly or through direct private messages. Invasion of victims' privacy through cyberstalking, uploading and sharing without consent of the victim, any form of the media that contains photos, voice, or video with sexual content, any unauthorized recording and sharing of any of the victim's photos, videos, or any information online, impersonating identities of victims online, posting lies about victims to harm their reputation, or filing false abuse reports to online platforms to silence victims. If any act considered as gender-based online sexual harassment is committed, such individual will be penalized with imprisonment, prison correctional in each medium period with fine ranging from 100,000 to 500,000 pesos. Next is the qualified gender-based streets, public spaces, and online sexual harassment. The punishable acts can be further qualified in particular cases. Heavier penalties are imposed on person who committed the violation in a common carrier or a PUB, where the offender was the driver and the victim was a passenger. Where the offended party is a minor, a senior citizen, or a person with disability, or a breastfeeding mother nursing her child. Where the offended party is diagnosed with a mental problem tending to impair consent. Where the offender is a member of the uniformed service and the violation was committed while the offender was in uniform, and where it was committed by a government employee in the premises of a government agency offering frontline services to the public. Duties of local government units and other government agencies. Local government units or LGUs bear the primary responsibility in enforcing the provision on gender-based street and public space sexual harassment. LGUs have the duty to pass an ordinance that shall implement the Safe Spaces Act, disseminate or post inconspicuous places a copy of the law and the corresponding ordinance, provide measures to prevent gender-based sexual harassment in educational institutions such as information campaigns and anti-sexual harassment seminars, discourage and impose fines on acts of gender-based sexual harassment, create an anti-sexual harassment hotline, and coordinate with the Department of Local Government or the DILG for the implementation of the law. Meanwhile, the DILG shall ensure the full implementation of the Act by inspecting LGUs if they have disseminated or posted in conspicuous places a copy of the Act and the corresponding ordinance, conducting and disseminating surveys and studies on best practices of LGUs in implementing the Act, and providing capacity building and training activities to build the capability of local government officials to implement the Act in coordination with the Philippine Commission on Women, the Local Government Academy, and the Development Academy of the Philippines. Under the law, the PNP Anti-Cybercrime Group is tasked to receive complaints and to develop online mechanism for real-time reporting of gender-based online sexual harassment. The Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center of the DICT is also made to coordinate with the PNP to prepare appropriate and effective measures to monitor and penalize gender-based online sexual harassment.
Republic Act Number 11313 to be known as the Safe Spaces Act or the Bawal Bastos Act, now fully in force, protects everyone from sexual harassment, both in physical and online spaces, and not just by persons in authority. It is closely related to the first Anti-Sexual Harassment Act, RA 7877 of 1995, with the aim of ensuring an individual's sense of personal space and public safety. The Safe Spaces Act addresses gender-based sexual harassment, including catcalling, wolf whistling, misogynistic and homophobic slurs, unwanted sexual advances, and other forms of sexual harassment in public places, workplaces, schools, as well as in online spaces. In addition to penalizing acts of gender-based sexual harassment in public places, the Safe Spaces Act also expands the 1995 Anti-Sexual Harassment Act. Formerly, sexual harassment was only punished when committed by someone who has authority, influence, or moral ascendancy over the victim. Under the Safe Spaces Act, acts committed between peers by a subordinate to a superior officer, by a student to a teacher, or by a trainee to a trainer are now covered as punishable sexual harassment. Therefore, under this act, anyone can be an offender and anyone can also be a victim.